order the Parish President's Advisory Committee on Permitting and Planning, July 15th, at West Bank Regional Library. Meeting called to order. Roll call.
Please state whether you're here, and please state whether you're filling in for somebody else that's not here. Stacy Alessandra. Rusty Autry.
Yes.
Jerry Bologna.
Here.
John Cerruti.
Here.
Jeff Charlet.
Here.
Adam Chimner. Donovan Duffy.
Here.
Bob Grace.
Here.
Brian Lee. Ruth Lawson.
Here.
Jim Martin.
Here.
Chance Miller. Frank Morse. Will Place. Charles Silbernagel.
Here.
Peter Sparrow. Bert Turner.
Here.
Vincent Vastola.
Here. Approval of the minutes from the December 4th, 2025 meeting. Any corrections?
I move to approve.
Hearing none, minutes are approved. All right, we're going to go into the review of the staff report. We're going to be looking for a recommendation and for the adoption of the draft report. Any discussion?
I want to make a motion to approve the draft report as written. Do I have a second from anyone?
Mr. Chair, would the committee members like to review the specific recommendations?
Or would you like to review this draft report? Unless you don't have a chance to read it.
You may want to go over it.
Right? Go over it? Okay. Yeah, basically the overview that Hanlon had written up was to go over the points that Jefferson Parish has made to this date in regards to the permit process and the planning process to make it better. So you'll see bulleted points from the overview section here that Jefferson Parish has worked with MGL to improve the user interface for permit applications based on feedback from this committee, which is true. We did that. Building permits department established and filled a new position dedicated to working with MGL on the customization and timely implementation of new features and improving training of parish staff on the current MGO permit software. So that's adding Latrice to to that position specifically for MGO troubleshooting problems. Engineering department established and filled a new position to coordinate public works engineering department responses for the land use review technical committee to act as a liaison with MGO and serve as a point of contact for applications that need to communicate with the various public works departments. Jefferson Parish has updated its online planning and zoning map, including direct hyperlinks to the zoning and district regulations. That was Amanda's work, which is great. Kiosks have been installed in the waiting room of the building permits department to assist applicants with online applications, which that looks nice in there. I visited and played with the touch screen. It was nice. Jefferson Parish has contracted with Camaros to study and consult on rewriting the Unified Development Code and Comprehensive Zoning Ordinance. Jefferson Parish has adopted interim standards related to the above study, modified and clarified site plan requirements, improved parking and landscape requirements, the introduction of conditional zoning and accessory dwelling unit regulations, the introduction of plan development regulations, modified and clarified regulations regarding home offices, outdoor storage, public playgrounds and parks, and specialty restaurants. Jefferson Parish has contracted with Barry Dunn to study and consult on the parish's building permit processes. And that's who we have today with us, Barry Dunn. So that's what the parish has done so far, contingent on our recommendations and a little bit of their forethought. Now, from our last meeting when we had our individual groups, we had come up with a number of issues that from our group settings that we would like to see, I guess, going forward. And that those items are as follows. We grouped them into staffing, operational, and that's the first proposal would be to conduct a pay study of plan reviewers and other planning and permit staff to ensure we attract the best talent possible. Parish staff should be supported by additional training and continuing education. The parish should engage in public outreach to identify opportunities to fill staffing gaps, including reaching out to community colleges for workforce development. The second thing that we proposed were to the administration should evaluate if the building permits and planning departments can be funded from application fees and fines or other revenue sources rather than from the parish general fund. Now, moving on to the process, we propose that the parish should require or encourage pre-design and pre-application meetings for projects. Applicants frequently submit plans that do not comply with the zoning regulations after expenses have already been incurred on professional designs. Early meetings for certain applications, especially in overlay districts, would help applicants understand regulations and avoid unnecessary delays. The second thing on the process would be to institute intake liaisons, single point of contact personnel who can be contacted with any questions and assist applicants with moving applications through the review process. That would help, with the efficiencies primarily of moving it through the review process, right? The third thing would be the parish staff should continue to study and streamline the intricate web of processes involved in approving applications. The fourth thing would be to study notice requirements and explore ways to shorten the period of application review, including parish council, PAB, and BZA timelines. The next item would be to review time limits for applicants and for staff to respond to one another. Then we have established an after-hours review process to be funded by applicants desiring expedite review. Such review would only be available after a first review has already been completed. Y'all can interject any time if you want, any of this.
It's not a specific item on here, but like, what is the purpose or intent of this? Like, is this, I feel like we're continuing in this process. Like, are we just giving, like, I see we're commending actions, and then we're providing recommendations, but is this the end recommendations? Is this document going to be published? Is this providing guidelines? Like, I just don't really understand what we're doing with it.
I think this is to outlay a game plan for continuing discussions and to make recommendations to the parish president, and in conjunction with Barry Dunn's work they're going to be doing.
This document that's like amended as we keep going.
It's like a working, living document, right?
Okay, and then like, what are we doing with it? Like from now, like, is it just for the staff to use? Is this going to be published to the public, or like, what are we doing with it after?
And
Or are we just giving an update to the public? I
At
don't
some
know.
point, we're gonna have to, once Barry Dunn is completed their report, we're gonna have to make motions for what we think the recommendations would be, right? So we-
Is this mic live now?
That's the live mic, but that's recording.
So to Bert's point, and to answer your question as best I can, we anticipate this document being a guide almost to the things that the parish needs to prioritize. This document will also be shared with Barry Dunn as part of their fact-finding, including their participation in today's advisory committee meeting. It will also be shared with our consultant Camiros, who is working on the zoning. Some of these recommendations are long-term implementation recommendations. So I think what Bert was getting to is that part of today's discussion, at the end, when you see on the agenda, next meeting, next steps, will be the committee's decision as to what you do next. We always envisioned this committee to sort of be self-guiding, ask you to come together and make sort of a determination for yourself of what you want to do next. Whether that is allow us the opportunity to take some time, start getting some work underway on these things and come back to you with status reports. Whether that is on a quarterly basis, a continued monthly basis, I think that's a decision for you all as a committee to make. But that's how we envision this document is a functioning kind of guide to what are the priorities, what are the things we need to address, and then you all decide how you want us to report that back to you.
Can we scroll back up to the previous slide?
And I just have comments or my questions about what's the intent of the project. I don't want it to seem that we're coming out with these recommendations or these comments or commendations of before we've even had the opportunity to kind of discuss things with Barry Dunn and see where their work leads. Like, I don't want it to seem like this is the end for us. To me, I think that we are just getting started.
Yeah, I don't think it's intended for it to be the end.
Further with
Right.
that, I think if the parish is going to come back and address what we are asking or suggesting, that's good. But we're not really giving action items, right? Studying those requirements, continue to study, review. We've seen these documents in other cases where you write this stuff and it goes, yeah, we continue to study. We did review. There's no action. So we should suggest action items, unless you come back with bulleted action items in response to our recommendation.
So, what we tried to do from last time was to separate into work groups. And the whole purpose of that was to narrow down, because we've had a bunch of ideas floating out there. And the idea for the work groups was to consolidate it down and make a list that is attainable and concise. Because before we just had things all over the board, right? So that was the purpose of the work groups last time. And we can still work in our work groups. I mean, it's still a thing because each segment is necessary. I mean, like we have our developers, we've got our design professionals, we've got our our residential guys, right? So they all have different. Everybody has different views. So this document is to kind of place a landing page for and concisely, put items together in an orderly way. That's all it is. And
I guess I just want to make sure that it's like a living document and that as we gather information from Barry Dunn and as to me, I think that the working groups, like I know several of us, that just, I wasn't able to be there, so I'm certainly not, I guess, saying anything against the working groups, but I don't think we can have one meeting of the working groups. I think it can be something that goes on as we get recommendations. but I think we should be able to respond to kind of some of the things we hear from Barry Dunn.
Right.
And I just want to make sure that this isn't like, this is maybe something we put on the agenda and ask for an update every single, meeting we have going forward, or maybe we hear a recommendation, or the parish staff finds something that doesn't work in our recommendations, and they come back to us and we tweak it.
Right.
I guess I just don't want it to be a final document.
Well, Hanley, we can make this a living document, or is this something that if we move on it today, that would be, kind of set in stone?
It can be a living document in the sense that
Will we have to amend it every time?
all the work that is done here at the meetings, and not, what we talked about last time is not having some type of Google document where just the board members work.
Right.
So there might be some confusion on that part. The overview of this report mentions the things that we came up with the last two meetings of what this board has, that this committee has come up with and recommended so far, and I think the actions that have already taken place. And then when we get into the 11, it's supposed to be action items. I understand your point about whether something that says study is an action item or not. It's not. We could go through and see which ones the board agrees with right now. So one of them is actually basically directing Barry Dunn to further study some of the things. So if that's something that the board is comfortable already recommending, we can move forward with that one without moving forward with
I don't
other
have any problem with
recommendations.
the content of it. I just want to make sure we're clear on what we're doing with it.
Right.
I think this is a summary of what the board has discussed in the last few meetings, and coming up with a final report of where we are at this point. But if the board regroups after the Barry Dunn consultants come up with additional ideas, the board can certainly come up with another report with further recommendations.
So what you're describing would be something like summation minutes, things we have discussed, things we intend to discuss further.
Right.
Because if it's a final product, or, a product we're delivering to someone else, I think it either needs to be more action-oriented, or presented to the parish to say what they can do as far as an action on each item.
Right. See, I think the comments that y'all making about, what are the parish responses to our process right here? Just for example, on item number 3, where we're making a recommendation that it should be required or encouraged in the overlay districts. Or should that be a mandate? What is the parish feeling about that? Is it something that we should say, the design professionals, that you are encouraged for this meeting? Well, that's going to eliminate 75% of everybody going through the process. Or is that should be a mandated requirement? If you're in an overlay district, this should be a mandated that you attend a pre-development, a pre-conference meeting. I mean,
It kind of makes it open-ended, you're saying.
right, I mean, it's encouraged, okay? Well, 90% of the people are not going to be encouraged to do it, because you already got the design professionals that do it now with no recommendation, okay? So if you just say encourage, that's not even going to go on somebody's radar. They're just going to ignore it. So what is the parish feelings for that? Can we get it a little more? Can it become mandated, rather? Can it become a part of the process that you do this pre-design meeting? That's some of the comments there. So, I agree that we should not lock this document down. It should be a living document and moving forward. Same thing for item number 7, review time and limits. I think what's the parish comments? Are they open for this, or something that we're looking to do? And if it is, then there's going to be more discussion on what is that review time, what is that process, and what happens when you don't fulfill? Does everything get reversed and you start over again? You pay application fee.
Yeah.
What's the penalty for not responding timely to the parish?
Yeah. And my other comments is I just don't think it should be a final report.
Right.
I agree 100%.
Yeah, I mean, this was always meant to be a start.
Yeah.
Really, I mean, we're trying to grab ideas and put it on dartboard, basically.
I think we need something. I just want to make sure it's not.
And I'll comment on the process number 5, where we told parish staff should continue to study and streamline. To me, I think that's ongoing forever. I mean, I don't think you'll ever find a solution that works. You're going to always be looking at new.
I agree with that, but, you talk about goals, they're not explicit, measurable things that can't be done.
Quantifiable.
Yeah.
Right, and what are we asking them to study and streamline? That should be item A, B, C underneath item 5. And I think this is going to take further discussions. I think we can just adopt this as a format or for the next discussion.
Charles?
Can we do that?
Well, it doesn't need to be adopted if we're still working on it. If
Then
any
I'm
of these
fine with that.
recommendations are not going to pass today, then we can kind of just use
Just
this
shelve
as
it.
a guide for, this is more of a catalog of what the recommendations that came out of the different tables were at the last meeting. And if none of these are ready to be finalized to the parish president and to the parish, then we can just use this as a guide until reporting recommendations are to that.
I don't know how anyone else feels about it. I just wanted it to be fluid.
I agree.
Gentlemen, are the items in the process section that we've come up with, are these the things that the consultants are going to be working on? Or are these the things that the parish is going to be working on outside of the consultants' work?
Well, we've got very done here, so we can,
That's good.
they'll get into their presentation.
So we don't know what this is, where this is going from here, other than it's a document that's been produced as a result of our many meetings.
Right. It's a reflection of our committee meetings and what the parish has done so far in acting some of the things that we recommended, and also the things that they were also already doing. Right.
And I think that's good for the parish or whomever should announce some of those, like what's been done already as a result, whether that's a result of our recommendations or just things that you all have figured out in this process for improvements. I think that's fine. I think that would be good for the committee and for the parish.
Almost like to tout it on Instagram or something. Something.
We were mentioned at the Jefferson Parish Council meeting yesterday. It was mentioned and the work that everybody's doing. I feel like in the beginning I thought that our purpose was going to be really digging down to the nitty-gritty and trying to figure out exactly what needed to be fixed and really just dig down, take the whole process apart and figure out what's working, what's not. But I'm kind of feeling now that our role is more of an advisory, just a broader advisory, where these guys are brought in to do what I thought we were going to do at the first meeting. And as we're going along, I think it's becoming more clear that our role is not really to dig down that deep. That's what they're going to be doing. It's more to just kind of figure out from the different sectors in general, where are the issues and what needs to be fixed. And I agree with you that I think this is just a summary of where we're at so far. And I don't think it's ready to be our final recommendations. But I don't think, am I wrong with that? We don't have to get so narrow in our recommendations. Is it supposed to be somewhat somewhere in the middle? Or where do we need to go to help with our part of this process?
Again, I'll reiterate, that's a decision for the committee to make for yourselves. But we always envisioned this committee's work feeding into the work of the consultants who are going to be studying the building permit part of the process. The long-term 2-year process to update the zoning, which will be the mechanism under which we study notice requirements. That's not an independent action. That's a part of the larger UDC rezoning rewrite, because all of that is comprehensive. So I think you are right, Stacy, in that this committee's future role may be best served as advisory to those processes as those processes develop, feedback forward, provide recommendations, have Barry done, come back at some point, whether virtual or just a copy of the report that we go through with you. Are these the right things? Is this what you had in mind when you said fix it? Is this the things that need to be fixed? as we go through the zoning code rewrite, while there will be plenty of opportunities for public input, your role in that process as an advisory or a steering committee, and when those consultants come back to you to, again, vet recommendations, make sure that those are implementing these things that are recommendations that you've identified from the start. That's all.
Any more discussions on this, on the draft?
I would just say in item 2, under staffing, operational, it says trying to get funds from fees and fines rather than from the parish general fund. We had also talked about possibly doing dedicated funds versus general funds. I don't know if that was left out intentional. I mean, like if possible.
Charles?
So I will say to John's point, other revenue sources would be inclusive of a dedicated village or other options. Now, that is something that the administration will have to do a review standalone. That is not a part of the scope of Barry Dunn or the Camara's consultant. So there will be some of these recommendations that the parish itself, the administration, will need to pursue separate and apart from these two consultant-led studies. So some action on today, report today to say, yes, we're in agreement, these are the things we want to start looking at now, I think would help support moving forward on some of these items, just to say you all are in agreement that these are where we start looking.
I'm fine with the recommendations.
Do you answer the question?
Yeah, thank you. I think we're doing a great job of developing comments for Jefferson Parish to review and think of to make the bureaucracy more efficient. I've been saying since day one, if we can't get qualified people that are more qualified than the people we have in the front door, in the permitting office, I think whatever we do here is still going to be a tall task for unqualified people to pay more to represent Jefferson Parish and all the residents of Jefferson Parish in the permitting office. I think that's, for me, step one, because if they're not qualified, no matter what we do in this board, to have more qualified people, if that's possible with raising the salary, I think whatever we do in writing is going to be less efficient without qualified people.
Good point. But let me address that point too, because I think that works both ways, okay? When we talk about that we need more qualified people in the reviewing of the design professionals' plans and all that, but we also need to look at all the design professionals submitting documents that are up to the parish standards, and are the documents concise, complete, and accurate for that reviewer to take his time and look at it, or they're missing things in it, okay? So just by increasing staff and all the people more qualified or not, if they're getting documents that don't meet that standard, then that could be an issue as well, and that's a hard thing to do. How do you get that person submitting those documents to meet the parish standards and make it an easy process to go from start to finish? I know sometimes it comes up where you got special circumstances when you get into engineering and you got, utilities to deal with that come up during the design process that aren't there, and it becomes more of a process. But most of this is a pretty simple process, and it's got to, I think it's got to be educated on both the parish side as well as the design professional side on what it takes to get the documents from start to finish. So
I'm not disagreeing with you.
That's
I'm
my
not talking
comment.
about me personally.
Well, I'm not talking about you.
One set of plans. If
Right.
I don't have a right, my design professional don't have a right, shame on me, shame on the design professional. I'm talking for Jefferson Parish, everyone in Jefferson Parish that has any dealings with the plan review, safety and permitting office. I think if we're the wealthiest parish in the state of Louisiana, I think we should pay more to have our residents and our employees represent Jefferson Parish residents with higher salaries.
And I take that point. I think the, what was it? The item number 4, where we talk about the liaison. So if you're a resident, if you're a homeowner, if you're somebody that wanting to submit your plans, and you had that intake person, that put somebody in the parish dedicated to listen to you, to take you, help you, and guide you through those steps, I think that is a very important person in the parish to help that homeowner get from start to finish.
Agreed.
To me, I remember the day when we had One Stop. I thought that was a great point of contact for residents coming in, trying to figure out, do I need a fence permit? Do I need a rental? What do I need? What do I need to get a permit? And that person would walk them through and go through that process. I think Jeff was there when that One Stop was in place. Do you have comments on that?
It needs to be more independent. I saw it kind of break down into a territorial kind of a thing. You had folks from engineering, folks from planning, building, and then you had a one-stop director. And I think initially it's a great idea. It's got to be properly staffed, and the one-stop guy's got to have actual authority. I think. I mean, instead of just guiding, you know, he has to have the ability to make some things happen, I think.
Because that would be the quarterback, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Should we add that as one of our?
We have that as staffing.
Specifically say one stop, something like that, or?
Under staffing and operational, that first point right there, we've got what Chance was saying for to ensure that we attract the best talent. And then number 4, on process, we have the single point of contact personnel liaison covered with that.
I think we should make it more clear though. One stop worked in the past, and you guys are all saying that you used it. I think maybe we should make it a little bit clearer on here that that's what we're talking about. I mean, I don't know, that's just my suggestion.
Okay. We'll note that.
Any more comments? Discussions? Daniel?
This was kind of already brought up, but for record-keeping purposes, these were items that I consolidated. They do sort of work like minutes in that we didn't come up with additional things, but try to just consolidate what the board has come up with so far. So, in that respect, they're not going to make it into the minutes until the board actually adopts it, but if there's any of these items that are actual recommendations, and a lot of these are very general at this point, but if any of them are not a recommendation, either not the way it was said at the last meeting, or you disagree with one, perhaps we could identify that particular one, and otherwise I would recommend moving to the report just so that we have a set list of recommendations that have been made so far.
All right, with
Well, with that being said, I guess I'll make a motion to adopt this living document as a document of what we have gone through so far to this date, and it can be amended. And then I can, okay, so I can finish the list that I was reading off of first before I make that recommendation. But so I left off on the number 7 on process, review time limits for applicants and for staff to respond to one another. Number 8 was establish an after-hours review process to be funded by applicants desiring an expedited review. such review would only be available after our first review has already been completed. Number 9 was, with accountability in mind, the parish should compare permit review timelines of the past several years to 2025 and 2026 to ensure that the parish is becoming more efficient. And then we grouped it into another category called software. So number 10 was MGL/permit software being updated on the customer side to include accountability checklists or matrix tables to better show the status of applications. Information provided should show names of department-specific reviewers and the length of time that applications have been received, reviewed, returned, or approved. That goes back to the transparency items that we were discussing in our work groups, that it should be all transparent. Number 11 is the MGL/permit software should include clearly defined decision trees in addition to full applications to assist applicants with the permit process. So with that being said, I'll make a motion after reading off all the items on the draft report, the draft report, that this living document, I move to make adopt it as a living document that we can revise as we see fit.
Second.
Second.
All right, second, Ms. Ruth, I'm going to say she did first. Ms. Ruth Lawson. Any objections to that? Seeing none, it's adopted. All right, next on the agenda.
All right, I would like Juliet to introduce our guest speakers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We're delighted to be able to have the opportunity for Barry Dunn to participate in today's advisory committee. Timing worked out perfectly. They have been in town this week to do what they call a fact finding, and I think Carrie may go a little bit through that when she talks about the process that they are undertaking as part of the scope of work for their study of the permitting process and ordinances. We did email out to all of you the agenda of what they will be going through in their presentation and their discussions with you. And I'll let Carrie talk a little bit about what they've done so far this week and their next steps. And with that, I will turn this over to Carrie Ouellette, who has joined us at previous meetings virtually. Here she is live and in person, and she will introduce her team. Carrie?
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Bear with me while we set up. So, good morning. My name is Carrie Ouellette with Barry Dunn, and we'll do some brief introductions in just a minute. But we do have a brief presentation, but we wanted to spend most of this time hearing from you. See the agenda with some questions for discussion. We want to keep this open. We have looked at the work that you've done so far, as well as the report, and use that to plan for this meeting, what we want to discuss. So we have some questions for discussion, but want to keep that open and fluid. If there are other things that you feel like we should talk about or you want us to know about, we'll make sure we have plenty of time for that. So we will talk through why we're here, our approach to the overall project, what we've done this week, as well as next steps. So again, my name is Carrie Ouellette. I'm the project manager with Barry Dunn, and Kevin Price, who was with us earlier this week, is our project principal. And I'll just have our team introduce themselves very briefly.
Thanks, Gary. Good morning, everyone. I'm Sam Eisenbizer, a consultant with Barry Dunn. On this project, my role is subject matter expert. I am a certified land use planner with 20 years of experience. And prior to joining Barry Dunn about 2 years ago, I spent a number of years on a municipal staff as part of the building permit and planning department. And my specialty is actually focused on economic development. Glad to be here.
Hi, good morning. I'm Jabari Steely, also a consultant with Barry Dunn, and I'm going to be working as a business analyst on the project. Glad to be here.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Ashley Aaron, consultant with Barry Dunn, also a business analyst on this project.
Thank you. So just a little bit about Barry Dunn. We are a management consulting firm founded in 1974, and we've been working specifically with local government clients for the past 38 years. Just to note, we have several different groups within our local government practice, and the four of us are within our community development and utility operations practice, which is led by Kevin Price, our project principal. And so we work exclusively with building, planning, utility departments on projects very similar to this. We worked with communities across the country. As Sam mentioned, Sam and I are both former municipal employees, so I've served in roles similar to the folks that we've talked to this week, and so understand both sides of the issues that are being discussed this week around the permitting process. So I won't go through this in detail, but you know why we're here. We're looking to identify and document challenges in the process. We're meeting with staff as well as this group and external stakeholders, people who are using the portal and going through the process as customers. We're looking to ultimately identify recommendations to improve efficiency and customer service, and knowing that there are ongoing changes and improvements, aligning those with what's happening with technology, organizational structure, as well as looking at the recommendations that you have provided, and then supporting the parish with updates to policies and ordinances. Overall, we started with the parish first initially meeting late November for initial project planning. We're looking to complete the phase 2 for a recommendations report in May, and then following that, providing policy and ordinance support. We're currently in phase 1, and I'll go through what we're doing in each phase. Project management, we'll continue to meet with the parish project management team bi-weekly, and through that, we'll continue to update this group on progress and keep you informed of what we're doing and get your feedback along the way as well. So we're right in the middle of phase 1, our current environment assessment. We have been on site this week meeting with staff and with external partners, reviewing that background documentation, including survey input from the chamber as well as from staff, talking through their processes, what they're hearing from customers, what their internal challenges are, and also looking to do peer research on other communities to see what's working well and what's not, and what those differences are, what makes Jefferson Parish unique. So following the fact-finding meetings this week, we'll be doing additional follow-up and then developing detailed diagrams of current processes. So looking at specific tasks, who's responsible for that task, and as we do that, we're identifying challenges and opportunities for improvement. And those diagrams are a great tool to carry forward to update, to really see where there are maybe inconsistencies or redundancies in the process. And then from there, we'll be identifying recommendations. I think working from what you have already prepared, I think those recommendations are on target, and some of those we were already thinking about and have worked through with other communities. There's some additional work to be done as far as there's mentioned about specific tasks for how to implement some of those recommendations. And as we talk with the project management team and with staff, we get a sense of what's actually feasible to do, what the internal limitations may be, or what maybe has been done in the past and has not worked or has worked well. Working through those details to come up with a detailed recommendation plan with guidance on specific tasks as well as best practices recommendations. Again, we have experience across the country knowing that there are some unique challenges here, but also that some of the process challenges we see in a lot of different places. So that report, again, looking to have that report in May. And following that, knowing that a report is only so good, you need to be able to implement that report, so providing some additional support on ordinance and policy updates, as well as, like someone mentioned, communication. Like, we need to communicate what's being changed, how that's going to impact customers, and also to recognize improvements that have been made. I think there are some challenges with perception for departments sometimes, and a good communication strategy can help to overcome that.
What was the timeline for that, the ordinance, like?
That's to be determined depending on where the parish is with implementation. For that, when we finalize the report, and I know that has to go through some other channels within the parish. Next steps, we will be facilitating this discussions with external partners. That's happening today, and conducting peer community research. We've heard from some of those external stakeholders with specific recommendations for where we should look, and then identifying processes to diagram, and we'll be developing those diagrams and confirming those processes with staff in February. So before we move on to questions that we have for you, do you have any questions for our team?
I've got a question. From our report, you've got this draft report, are you looking at our recommendations, each one of them, and kind of going through and succinctly trying to quantify each one of them, or is that a possibility? Or?
Yes, so we'll be looking at those and working, as we develop a list of recommendations, we'll be making that list with the parish project team, and we'll look at each one of those. Again, once we do more research, analyze information we've collected, there may be some questions about what's feasible to implement, where there may be some challenges with whether it's budget or other challenges. So we'll and I think that's a good thing for us to do, is to provide some response to you as far as where we land on each of those, as far as moving forward with a recommendation and building that out or not.
Yeah, just so that we're dovetailing what we're doing.
We have a little bit of an interactive portion of this presentation that we wanted to get your feedback on some ideas. And the first, I'm going to have Ashley talk through how to use Mentimeter if you have not used it before.
Awesome. Thank you, Carrie. So as Carrie mentioned, we are going to transition into a discussion and some polling activities using a software called Mentimeter. So there are two ways to join. You can either scan the QR code on the screen with your cell phone, or you can type in menti.com, and there is a little join code at the top. I'm happy to read it out. It's really small. And so if you just type in that code, you will be able to join this presentation in live time. So the first activity that we're going to do is a voting question. So if you look at the sheet that you were given, you will see the key themes from the PPAC concerns. There's a little bit more information about this upcoming question there. But this first one will be a voting question, and then we will transition into an open discussion. We're going to leave the Mentimeter open and active during our discussion. So while we intend to have a live in-person discussion, if you think of anything that you would like to contribute, you are more than welcome to go ahead and type that in on the Mentimeter. Your submissions are anonymous, but they will appear on the screen. I will also be going through during our discussion and adding some kind of key themes or consistent comments that I hear. And so you can look up on the screen and you will see those. So the main objective is for us to all kind of communicate live, but feel free to add things in on your device if you would like as well. Menti is spelled M-E-N-T-I, so you'll go to menti.com, and then the code that you will type in once you get there is 31500917. It's at the top there if you can see it. I'm happy to read it again in a few minutes. Were people able to join? Is the QR code working? Okay, awesome.
Mine's taking a while to load.
Give it a
You got a create account?
You gotta create an
I
account.
think it's Verizon.
You should have had to pay for that.
At the time, to join.
Everybody else have Verizon?
I just have the slide.
Watch these stuff too.
Because they advance it.
Okay.
We just have
We
the
should just
slides
be looking at
right
the
now.
slide.
What'll happen.
Oh, yeah.
Very often, we took these, we took these categories from input that we received from this group as well as from staff. Very often, perception from different stakeholder groups is different on what the biggest challenges are. So we wanted to gauge what you think are the biggest hurdles in the permitting process, and that could be, we have the scale of not important to very important, and it could be that everything is very important. That could be an answer. We want to compare that to what we've heard from staff and what we've heard from other external customers as well. And again, you're not required to use Menti if you want to shout out and share. We found that this works well with a bigger group so that everyone has an opportunity to participate, knowing that we have limited time. So nothing is not important. That's not And what we're seeing, it looks like things are generally, similarly, very important or very important, with communication and collaboration so far being the most important, and I think that really aligns with what we've heard from other groups, so that's another thing. Another minute. Anyone who hasn't completed that yet? Thank you. So earlier mentioned some recent improvements that have been made, and we've heard from both staff and customers that has had an impact, and they found some of those changes to be really helpful. Wanting to hear from this group what improvements are you aware of that have had an impact on process efficiency and effectiveness? And if you want to just share that either through Menti or otherwise.
I want to say the one thing that has increased efficiency is the revision of the geo portal and showing all the maps and the zoning and it's got links, hyperlinks to the community code. Before, we didn't have that. That was a big change. So that was one of the things that I think has brought Jefferson Parish to the 21st century, because other jurisdictions have it, and, I'm an architect, so I go through other jurisdictions, and like it's user-friendly. The more user-friendly the technology is, the better it is for, professionals or somebody that is, I guess, a little bit more tech savvy to go on and do the reconnaissance, the due diligence that's needed on a lot of these projects.
Do you think most people are aware of that, and the availability of that information?
I know this group is, because we had a presentation on it, but I don't know if the community, I don't know if it's been spread that far. But
Who uses the geoportal? Who uses the geoportal other than design professionals or?
do y'all use it?
Real estate professionals.
I do.
Vincent, you know how to get on the geo portal?
Yes.
Really?
I don't believe you.
Well, you have to now, right? I mean, there's no other option.
One
It's a
thing
good
that we're looking at, since you're looking at revising the codes, and another suggestion that I'd seen was in the online process, have points where you have pull downs to explain details. When we do the pull down, it would be better to have them in simple English rather than the legal terms that are used on the statutes. So that, because we're talking about customers, not lawyers. And have that interpreted in simple language so that when they go in to talk, they can explain what they're thinking.
And this is referring to on the portal?
This would be a combination of NGO's system and integrating with any other changes that we're making to make it simpler. We talked about when they get the applications in that they're filled out inaccurately or incompletely, the MGO online application should take you through all of the necessary pieces, minimizing the amount of interpretation. And then with the pull downs, that should answer a lot of people's questions as they go through it.
We did also hear from other folks about understanding, being able to see more on the website as far as project status, who is reviewing, and if the applicant is waiting on the reviewer, or the reviewer is waiting on the applicants. So we've heard different things, and I think it's just based on the user as far as is NGO user-friendly or not. So it seemed like from our conversations with some folks who use it regularly that it's easy to use, but then others have challenge.
Yeah, I mean, to go on that, I mean, had two guys in my office just, last month that, we're trying to go to the MGO, and they ultimately both had to talk to a person who helped them guide them through the process, and so, I don't know if you ever can get it to a point where just everybody understands it, except you're like a design professional and you do it all the time. But, again, back to the chance of, just having people there to help, I think, is the main thing.
specific challenges were?
I know you always don't going to get into details. One guy was trying to demo a building, and there was all kind of back and forth, and had to get something from Energy, and Energy wasn't replying. And along with the dumpster issue, didn't need a fence in an industrial zone district. This other guy was trying to help get a permit for a tenant that's been there for 20 years. And, he didn't know the first thing. He had to call somebody. And, I don't know what to say the name who helped him, but somebody was very kind. Spent about 30 minutes with him on the phone, helped him through the process.
I think I don't know if it's right, but the landing page when you just first get online, if you're a new user, you've never applied for permits or anything before, it should be very simple and self-explanatory, like just very uncluttered, that first page. This is what I'm trying to do, how do I get there? And then once you get to where you're supposed to be, I think it needs to have links that people can click on if they don't understand something. There should probably be a lot of that where it would answer a lot of questions. If you could click on links to explain different things. Maybe even have like a visual flow chart. Once you get to where you need to be, here's the flow chart of how the process works. Here is where you are in that process. If you're at this point and you don't understand, you have an issue, here's who you contact. Like just given so much information, but in such a simple way that people can understand it, I think would go a long way in helping people, not like these guys who do it every day, but the other people who don't use it so often.
My point with that, Stacy, is that there is no way to do that. It's so complicated. There's so many different words. When you say permit, it can mean 10 things. That I don't know the way to sit there and fully educate someone without having a human. I understand what you're saying. Like, it would be great if it would be like do 1, 2, 3, 4. But if you're applying for a garage permit, garage sale permit maybe, but when you're applying for something commercial, and you gotta have all these different departments, and then it gets kicked to planning, and then maybe the health department chimes in. It just gets very complicated. When you change one thing, and you change the whole trajectory of it.
That's what I'm trying to figure out. So if it's a very complicated thing, like you say it is, and I believe
Well,
you.
did you see that, what was it, that web that Vincent loved so much on the first day? If this happens, and you go here, and this happens, and you go there, and to ask somebody to try to understand that and navigate it themselves, I think that this is a possibility, unless you're a design professional and you're like, oh, okay.
Is the technology available to where you could put in so much different, you break that complicated part down, say, you start up with this is what I'm applying for, a commercial permit, and I have to do all these 5 things under that, and then those branch out, and it just, at the end, you've got 50
I
things
just
you're
don't
trying
think
to
it's
do that
possible.
they're,
I've been doing this for over 20 years, and I was working on a property this week, and we called about the zoning. This was not Jefferson Parish. We called about the zoning and said, yeah, you can do it. We were looking at driveways, all kind of stuff. All of a sudden, at the last second, they were like, oh, by the way, you're in a historic district. And that changed everything.
right.
And it was like, there's just too many things to consider, I think, to make it a simple process. So click 1, 2, 3, 4, and your permit. That's why I think the human interaction, to me, everybody speak up if you think I'm wrong, is so important.
I agree with you 100%. I feel like we
And
kind of
even like, Charles, what you were saying, design professionals, I've had design professionals, submit things that were wrong, and, it's like they should have, I felt like they should have seen it, but I understand, y'all are dealing with so many different parishes and variations yourselves that, it can become difficult to submit something complete and perfect, So that's why I think the human interaction is, with the one stop that Vincent says, and to Jeff Charlie's point, about the authority, I just feel like there is a lot of, 20, 30 years ago, you can go into to a reviewer and say, oh, you need 8 parking spots, but, you know, you have 7 and you're not really gonna affect anything, so yeah, here's your permit. That authority has been taken away from that permit guy. Now it's like, you know, it's gotta be a certain level, and it seems like the director is overseeing every little aspect, and they gotta follow every law to the T, and so that authority is taken away from them, and so that's a problem there too. I understand they don't want people making mistakes or going around the rules, but if that's the way it's going to be, with there's so much oversight over these people, then it'd be hard for them to do anything. They're going to be walking around handcuffed by the law.
I'm going to move on to the next question, but I do think, I do think that it's a combination of both more and more simplified information on the website, as well as, and maybe that helps to free up some time for that one-on-one service.
Sure, yeah, that makes sense.
Where there are circumstances where things are more complicated.
But getting to his point, but if we had that one person, like you say that, you know, you're missing a parking spot, you gotta do this, you gotta do that. If you had that one person that you checked in with, and they were able to tell you, you need to get a resub, you need parking, you need to have, you know, oh, there's a telephone pole on the way, whatever, they, at that point, you now know the hurdles that you gotta go.
Yeah,
You're not
no.
waiting for that reviewer to
I
take a
agree.
month to come back and say, wait,
Right.
oh, forgot to tell you, you need a resub. And now you got another month in resub.
No, I agree with the one-person contact. I love that idea.
Have y'all seen the flow chart that was here the first day?
Yes.
We want to simplify that.
Right.
That's a good summation of it.
Well, the question could be, the question is, can it be
Streamline that.
simplified?
I think
One arrow. I mean, if that kind of thing, I'm sure at the time, each of those arrows was put in place for a very good reason. I'm not sure that today, those reasons are all still in existence. And they're probably, you know, if you take the right step every single day, it's still possible to end up on the wrong place. So I'm sure along the line, everybody's intention was the right intention. But where we are now cannot possibly have been the intention they would have had when they started. So I think it's time to say, okay, here's where we are now. Okay, we got there for a great reason. Everybody made great decisions the whole time to get us here. We're not blaming anybody. But now, we're the largest parish in the state, the wealthiest parish in the state. We need a system that accommodates that. Sorry.
I don't know if you can simplify that system because of
I'm not
all
saying
laws.
so, but, well, okay, so if that's the answer, if the experts come in who have had similar experiences in other places and say, yep, that disastrous flow chart is just how permitting works, I would like to hear them say that.
Yeah, 'cause I mean, that's why I always make this analogous to traffic. You know, it's like, you can't get rid of traffic. Everybody would love to just be able to fly over the bridge. Can't get through traffic, but you can make it better. Put on a podcast or let people know, hey, you know, you're going to be sitting in that for 30 minutes.
I think that's a good point. What we heard is there are, customers don't have clear expectations for how long things are going to take. So that's one aspect of it. I do think, I will say, it is just a complex process by nature. There are things that can be done to get information to people so that they can, it seems more smooth on their end, whereas what's happening internally with the parish can be more streamlined and communication can flow more easily. But you don't want buildings constructed without planning review and stormwater review, those sorts of things. So as far as everything that has to happen to get your permit, those things are there for a reason. It's how that gets done, how communication happens, and those aspects of the process.
I mean, I think there's definitely efficiencies that can be made in a building permit or site plan review to streamline, but the other big component is what triggers a variance or resub and the process to do that. I mean, if we miss a bush or a Class A tree because it can't fit somewhere, that's 3 months to get a parish variance. Has to go through council, so it's those sorts of things like, and look, we got there because Veterans Boulevard used to look like a concrete jungle, and you know, you drive down it now and it's beautiful, but I think it's just we have to streamline, to me, that's one of the biggest things, is you have a legitimate reason, like, hey, I can't fit it, or, I'm not just saying I don't want to do it, there should be some way to expedite that variance to where it's not 3 months.
And I think that 3 months includes multiple public meetings. Right?
Yes, public meetings, council, yeah.
Maybe that's not the best, most efficient process for handling a simple question of yes or no. I mean, if it's no, just say no.
I think it's the old adage of, we put double drive-throughs on all these McDonald's. It's the perception that you're getting somewhere, and then we put pull-up windows for a third window for people to move past the presenter's booth and cash booth to be like, oh, well, move up to one spot and we'll come get you. I think that's more of a problem.
You can see
You
progress.
can see progress. That's my analogy.
So communication is certainly a big challenge that we've heard both external and internal stakeholders. So do you have a sense of what specific points in the process need additional clarity and communication? I think generally what you just said about understanding where you are in the process is certainly one major point.
I don't have anything. I think that would be probably more of the people, engineers and architects who need to deal with it every day. I'm more looking at it from global.
So what, I just have re-review by all departments. I think that's something we've touched on in several of these meetings. If we get a comment back from one, I think they have 7 days to give first round of comments. And that's all departments. If just traffic says to move the drive, or I guess, if landscape has a comment, it then triggers every department for re-review for 5 days. In y'all experience, I understand, move a driveway, that there's something, but could there be a streamline, like, is there one reviewer of, okay, here was the comment, and here was the comment, and then they change this, so it doesn't need to go back to this department or this department. Sort of funneling those so that every department doesn't, I couldn't imagine being in every department and having to relook at all the drawings and nothing's changed. It's got to drive them crazy too. So I think that's another process, because that would also prevent we didn't have comments from one department the first time, now we're getting them, on their second review, even though nothing changed, and it just snowballs.
I think the challenge with that is that, yes, I think having that one person to funnel, look at what has changed and determine who needs to review, makes sense. It's challenging to have enough knowledge of each of the other departments to know when that's required.
I hate to be a broken spoke, but once again, maybe more people, do we have not enough employees to handle all these tasks? Are we asking one person to do 4 people's job, or do we need to add more employees to help us streamline, just for instance that, maybe 1 or 2 qualified employees in that position could get the answer quicker?
Or if you just had more, then maybe it wouldn't take 7 days to respond, it would take 3 days to respond.
So do we have enough employees? I don't know.
I think early on in this process, it was admitted that we're understaffed, and we can't get enough trained employees.
It's hard to hire people.
Unless that's changed. Has Parish hired a whole bunch more new people in the planning and the permitting department? I don't think so.
So, and I think with what we're doing here is critical as an advisory council, but if we don't have the staff to pull this off, once again, it's going to be 5 to 7 days. Now, hire 1 or 2 people in that department to expedite, or how many hats is every employee wearing in Jefferson Parish? Are we asking one employee to do multiple things? I would guess that the answer is yes. Do we not have enough funding to hire more people to be more efficient? I don't know. Just a comment. Next slide.
We spoke a little bit about MGO, but what limitations have you experienced in the permitting process and how they impacted projects?
I think one thing was, I know I uploaded some documents on a permit, and then when I went back to see if I had uploaded them before, what I had uploaded, I wasn't able to see the documents that I uploaded.
I think they fixed that.
That's been fixed.
Yeah,
That's
right.
been like last week or?
They can go turn it on. If it was an existing permit, they have to go and turn it on physically, but now any new permit application, it automatically posts it. So if it were an existing permit or an older one, that before they flip that switch, you just got to call the permit office. They actually have to go in and manually flip it.
Okay.
But then anytime they hit new, it automatically has it setting.
If you accidentally uploaded the wrong document, can you now remove that document? I think we said in the very beginning, we found out that you couldn't.
You can. I don't think you can. Once you upload it, I don't think you can.
Like if you accidentally upload a picture of your vacation instead of switching the driveway, you can delete that. Right. I think you should be able to review what you've just uploaded and see if you can delete it or not.
Those little things are good to know. I know Larry's been working on a lot of improvements and just system use optimization, and we've heard quite a few things from staff where we think, oh, just a little change would make that issue go away. So knowing all of those little glitches and challenges with the system is helpful.
Have y'all, because MGO came to us too, y'all come across MGO in past in other municipalities?
Yes, I know our team has worked with other communities using MGO in Texas.
Okay.
Have y'all ever recommended that a municipality get rid of MGO and replace them with someone else?
So we don't make that recommendation. We are neutral. We have often gone in to assist communities with this type of project, and then the outcome is you really need a better system. For Jefferson Parish, that's not what we're hearing. I think there's still a lot of opportunity to optimize the system.
That was my takeaway from their very first presentation, that we're not utilizing it to its fullest potential.
System challenges. What are the most common regulatory or policy barriers in the permitting process? And just to know, we're not the group addressing the UBC or zoning, but we've heard quite a bit about those challenges as well. Lack of knowledge of what is needed. Is that about submission requirements?
This one for me right here is knowing where you are in the process, okay? I mean, right now on my job, you get, when you start the process, it's red, it says incomplete, and then you wait until it turns green. They need a yellow somewhere. They need more indications of you're in review, you've been reviewed first time, your second. It needs to be more of a time frame, so you're just not waiting in that review process.
Did y'all add the color for once it was reviewed by y'all and back in our court, but it turned yellow? Is that active now? I haven't looked recently.
We're still working with
Okay.
them on that.
So it's still green and red. That was one of the issues, is if they've reviewed it and commented, it still shows red. So we don't know the difference. You have to click into it to see, okay, are they waiting for us to reply back to them? So it's either green or red. Once they've approved it, it's green, but we don't know, once it's red, we don't know if they've commented or if they still haven't even looked at it yet without clicking into
So
it.
it's red until it's been,
Until it's been cleared by them, yeah. So it should show yellow when, hey, I've reviewed it, I've kicked it back to you to answer my question.
for the variance process, is that just the overall time to go through that?
Yeah, overall, like I said, overall time, and if there's a way to, and I understand, it's not good to have one person that can decide what's a variance that they can approve and what's not, but is there a way to, every single one takes 3 months. Is there a way to, put it on a table and say, okay, this is a minor variance or a big one that needs this 3-month approval?
So every legislative review needs to go through PAB and then council.
Correct.
The dates and to advertise, that's the issue.
The question is, what should trigger that?
Yeah, so is there, I know we can do it administratively, or you have to do it through the, and then PAB and everything else. So whether it's more being just straight administratively, or is there another, is there another, can you create a group that, so it's not just on one person's shoulders, but they say, okay, yes, these 4 votes will, in this group, will allow us to grant this variance and not go through the full process.
Like a sub PAB?
Sort of, because there's obviously rules, you don't want just one person allowing this developer to get off and not do it versus the next one, that's probably why the whole PAB process was put in place. But if you had multiple, if you had third option to say, okay, yeah, we're good with this.
I wouldn't mind just skipping PAB and going straight to council.
Well, I do think that she's referring to variances through the permitting process more with the BCA.
Oh, okay.
So site plan review, that's planning support and the UDC rewrite. But I hear you, Don.
Who makes the determination whether it's an administrative, whether it needs to go into administration for review and approval, or go to the council? Who makes that decision as to whatever the nature of the project is?
It's part of ordinance.
It is by ordinance. Could you repeat that?
Vince,
My question was, who makes the decision?
so it can be a simple administrative decision, this is my experience, unless one of the neighbors go, uh-oh, hold on, we have some clarity that needs to be given on what's going on. For instance, there in Old Meading, probably Jefferson Parish, most of the properties I buy, let's say it's a 50 by 120. So it's 2 lots of record, 25-foot lot, 25-foot lot, because it hadn't been in commerce in 30, 40, 50 years. So that usually is a simple resub to make 2 25-foot lots into 1 lot of record of a 50 by 120. That's usually administrative, no problem.
Right.
But going from 2 individual lots of record that the house is built over the center property line, that was, the house is 50, 60 years old. So you're taking 2 lots of record, going into 1 lot of record. That should be administrative discussion, I would think, for Jefferson Parish we're not double the density, we're still having 1 lot of record, but it's just got to go through a variance. And that being said, if the neighbors have a problem of what we're doing on private property, they would take it from a simple administration.
And I was mostly referring to a commercial development. I mean, if the landscaping requires 17 bushes and the developer's only got room for 16 bushes, does that have to go to the council, the PAB, and the council for review because it's a variance? Yeah, I mean, there's some things, you know, and I can't think of a single situation in the 35 years that I've been doing developments that we've had a neighbor that has complained about landscaping or a sign or anything like that. It's mostly been, you know, residents in subdivisions a half a mile away. Oh, we don't want that. That's why I was just asking who makes the decision as to whether or not it's administrative or whether or not it's legislative. You got to go to council. Years ago, you know, you would just simply contact the director in that department and say, we can't do that. And he would look at it and say, oh, okay, not a problem. And I mean, you're not offending anybody, you're not creating any problems, but those kind of delays are problematic and expensive.
And Chad, to simplify your process of these 2 lots, if the person's been owning these 2 lots for 30 years, have been paying taxes on this, it's known that they own the 2 lots, but now the re-subdivided should be a simple parish process of a new lot number, not my client paying to clean up the assessor's problems.
Right.
Just 2 clarifications. Once again, we're straight back into playing field, but I do want to make it clear, Chance's situation is in the tree preservation district. That is not applicable to the entirety of the parish. It is applicable to the tree preservation district, and that is in the code of ordinances. The determination if you require a variance or not is set forth in the code. If you cannot meet the requirements of that process, or if you're seeking a re-subdivision within the tree preservation district and your abutting property owners do have an issue with it, all of that is spelled out in the code of ordinances. That is where the determination is made as to whether you are legislative because you require a variance, or if you're ministerial because you do not require a variance. The planning department works very hard with property owners to ensure that if there is a variance noted, let's see how we can address that to the best of the property owner's ability. To the tree preservation district, that ordinance does not leave a lot of wiggle room for the planning department.
Thank you for that clarification.
You got to start off with that, it's tree preservation.
I'm going to keep
building in the
moving,
wrong spot.
knowing that we have limited time. I wanted to get your feedback on other jurisdictions that have an efficient and effective permitting process, or just aspects of that process that are working well, features either on the portal or just maybe it's a pre-application process that is working well. We want to hear about that.
So we're supposed to be responding to this on our phone, is that?
You don't have to respond on your phone.
Oh, of course.
You can just tell us. Maybe Jefferson Parish.
We're right next to New Orleans, which has their own issues, so we have that going for us.
I would put the question back to you guys. What have you seen in other states, municipalities, that you think is a good model for Jefferson Parish, even though we have our unique struggles? It's undersea, there's a multitude of different unique problems that Jefferson Parish presents. What models have you guys seen that works best in your opinion?
That's what we're going to come back to you with. For the peer community research, we want to look locally, knowing that there are certain laws and geographic conditions that make this area unique. For specific recommendations, we do have some, and we'll look for additional depending on what the recommendation is, best practices, things that you were talking about, the information available on websites. So we've seen communities that have implemented that decision tree functionality that works really well. Other processes. I mentioned the pre-application process, and there's some balance as far as when that's required, whether it's required or recommended, those types of things. And we'll look a little more closely at specifically communities that have some similarity to Jefferson Parish and what makes the most sense here.
I can tell you one that may be related to this. I don't know how you guys feel, but I'm a real estate agent, by the way. So the Orleans Parish Assessor's website is amazing. And, you know, we use that a lot. Like if you want to go there and get the lot number or see the actual dimensions or see what overlay districts, that website is amazing. And we all realtors in this metropolitan area, we all say the same thing. I think they even wanted some type of award for how great their assessor's website is. So I don't know, you know, how much that would help y'all, but if our assessor's website was modeled after theirs, there's so much information there that when you're in the planning stages of like buying property and different things like that, there's a lot of information available there that might have like helped you if your client knew, you know, when they were buying that property, here's all, the, you know, the zones I'm in and everything. You know, that's helpful to know going in what you're facing.
I find that to be the rule, not the exception too. Like, I've purchased some places other than around here, and generally the assessor's website is very GIS functional, where you can find almost everything. You can find the tax bills, you can find the tax receipts, you can find the tax assessments, you can find all the different overlays. It's all there too.
And you can, Orleans Parish, you can click and see actual pictures.
Mm-hmm.
It's just
the last minute drive
so, not saying that ours is bad, but there's just so much information in it that's so helpful that maybe kind of look at that and see if I can do it.
And it's all over the GIS code. You just got to link it together.
You were mentioning the Geo portal earlier. Is there additional information that could be there that would be helpful?
I don't know if they have do you have assessor's office on there, like to click and go to that would be
owner's information. So like the ownership of the lot's not on there right now.
Yeah, so I think what they're saying is in Orleans is combined, right? The assessor and the geo portal. Where in Jefferson, I guess you have to go to two places.
No, they link. So you have the New Orleans property viewer, then you have the assessor's website, but they link to each other.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
So I think
okay,
perfect
yeah.
world, we have the GIS, and we have the assessor's website, and they link.
But you also want to link the sheriff's office website. That's whose tax we're actually paying.
The new geo portal is a lot better than the old one. I think one thing we had mentioned was it tells you overlay districts, it tells you those sorts of things, but is there a way to not only tell you that, but then click a link and know, okay, because I'm in this overlay district, what requirements do I have?
Yep.
You know, instead of having to comb through the code in 17 different sections.
That's generally how they work around the country.
It pulls all that for you.
Linking to the
Landscaper, if I'm in this overlay zone, it knows it. I'm doing a building, landscape requirements, you know, setback, pull all those sections, parking into one.
That was our last question, but I'll open it up if you have anything else that you want to share or questions for our team about the work that we're doing.
I just want to ask a question, as I think you may have noticed that we have a lot of residential developers here, and then we have commercial developers. My company owns a substantial amount of undeveloped real estate, which has been targeted by the parish as being the future growth of the parish. And one of the things that we're concerned about is over the years, there's been many different changes in zoning and overlays and all that. And it's been our opinion that those, whatever studies were done, were done in such a way to where it was like done in a vacuum and not taking into consideration the whole area and other comparable areas that have nothing around it. Why do you need to put an overlay of this and that and all that? Why not let it develop in whatever the zoning it is? comments as to the nature of the development. I just think that's very important, and it is, all these different studies that are being done and the changing in zoning and all that kind of stuff is kind of creating an issue. It's very difficult to market that stuff to people when, the zoning has changed. Well, we looked at it last year. Some of the people, most of the people that we deal with are people that are out of state. And, they've looked at that property or that area where the property is for years. And they may look at it today and make a decision, a year from now, look, things have changed. I just think that you need to look at large tracts of undeveloped land differently than, a residential development in the old Metairie district or in a subdivision or something like that. To talk about tree preservation in a large 1,000-acre tract of land, in my opinion, is ridiculous. You can't develop that property without putting 2 or 3 feet of fill on it. You're going to kill everything that's there. So those are just some of the things that I want to point out to you folks as you're doing your study. There's a difference between a residential development. There's a difference between doing something in a developed area as opposed to an undeveloped area.
So that's beyond what the scope of our project is, but I do think, I don't know if Juliet wants to speak to the zoning update at all, but I do think that going through that big process of updating the code as a whole and taking the time to understand what the challenges are today and reconciling some of the changes that have been made over many, many, many years is a good thing, and will make improvements for all of you in understanding what the code is. Well, thank you all for your time. It was great that we were able to be here in person and meet with you, and appreciate you letting us pick your brains for a while this morning.
Just one quick question. Out of every government you work with, who does it the best?
So what we, as I mentioned, the research that we do on best practices, it's kind of picking, we kind of look at what tools or systems or process changes would be helpful here, and then kind of see where that is being done well. I don't think there's any, we'd probably be out of a job if there was one community that did it the right way and everyone could do it the same way. You wouldn't need us to be here.
They don't get hard to go to the business community.
And then also there's so much evolution in technology and those sort of things. So
Who doesn't call you?
In some communities, there's not much better than others. We still have communities that are working on paper and different. It's constantly changing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
All right, thank you for that presentation. All right, now, our next order of discussion is going to be our future meeting schedule and the agendas for those meetings. And I think the agenda is going to be, we're going to take that draft report, and everybody should review it if we haven't, and expand those comments on those process, on those different bullet points. Why don't we can look at those, take those, and begin to expand them. Where do we want to take those, item 3, item 7, the ones we talked about earlier, and where should we go with it?
Is it time to give the parish groups
Yeah.
have them reply to that stuff already if they want to?
And I think the parish should also give us some comments back if we think we're in the right direction. What do we think about whether the pre-design should be mandated, should be a requirement, should be an encouragement? Where should we take that? So those are the things I think we need to be looking at.
And I think that they're going to be done in May, right, with your report and recommendation. Until then, I don't know, I guess we could look over this draft report and make additional, I guess, comments over email, but do y'all find that we need another meeting by the time they get done with their report? Which is, I guess, the question.
Do we not need to provide, like, or can Barry Dunn provide us updates throughout that, to where it's not just like, we get a May report and we're like, wait, that's not what we were all thinking, you know?
Yeah, we'll have a lot to look at one time.
Yeah.
Or is it something that you can break off in like 50%, 100% increments?
Carrie, it was my understanding that you're going to be visiting with different companies, different people, to get some input from the outside.
We have had, we had one focus group discussion yesterday and having one today with external partners who are regular customers of the parish.
Regular customers of the parish, what does that mean?
Who submit for applications and have gone through the process.
Okay. Have they been residential customers or have they been commercial customers? Or do you know?
So Vincent, the invitation to participate in the 2 focus groups during the in-person visit from Barry Dunn was sent out to the advisory committee members, and you were asked to share that with your contacts and your associations. We provided the invitation to the chamber, who sent it out to their membership. We provided it to the Home Builders Association, who sent it out to their membership. And then we also identified some contractors, sign companies, other folks who have, made comments or been interested in the process, maybe not necessarily represented here in the advisory committee. But we did make an effort to make as broad of an invitation to this process as we could. I hope those of you who are members of the Home Builders Association can confirm you received that from Dan Mills, who sent that out on behalf of that organization. As I said, Ruth was gracious enough to send it out for the chamber membership. And then again, it was sent to all of you and asked for you to share with your professional organizations as well.
Is it closed? In other words, can we ask to be a part?
It'll be right back here in this room in about 30 more minutes.
Are these the only 2?
These were the only 2 in person because they coincided with this week's visit. Barry Dunn has, offered to next week schedule some follow-ups if we had interest from anybody who couldn't participate this week. To date, I have not received any request from anyone who received the invitation to the focus groups to ask for that virtual option next week. I do want to say that it isn't our best interest to do this within this week and next week, because Barry Dunn is going to sort of be closing this part of their fact-finding part of the process so that they can begin getting into a good understanding of our systems. The next step, I think, as Carrie explained, is actually process diagramming, where they start really getting into, to your point, the details of how it happens at the staff level, where the public, where citizens are interacting with those processes. The review of those process diagrams is expected to be going through February. And so I think by March, we'll have kind of a good set of baseline data work product from Barry Dunn.
So I
Is
guess
that fair to say, Carrie?
That was, I guess, my question for us to plan out the next meeting. How much stuff would you have, by March? So we can have, we've got a couple of dates that are reserved for a meeting space. One's April 16th and one's July 16th.
We do also have a March date booked at the library.
Oh, you didn't tell what? So March too, so that's,
So by March, we would have final process diagrams, if that's something you want to review, that can be shared with you. And then in April, we'll have had a good discussion with the parish team to identify recommendations, and we'll be working on building those out, so that may be a good point to have your input on where we are in that process.
In April? No, okay. So it might be too close for March. I'm just saying, you know, do we want to look at April 16th as a meeting to get back together after they do part of their report?
I think if they're going to have something about March, I think skipping a month might be helpful.
March.
Yeah.
Having the meeting in March? Okay.
Yeah, nothing else, just to refresh memory, because going 4 months without a meeting.
What date in March?
And y'all are just working on the permit side, not the planning?
If we do have a meeting in March, could we have anything, depending on the date, I guess, if it's able to give us anything about it?
Will y'all
Are
be
we
here in
talking about
person?
having like,
Wait, one time.
I'm sorry,
Go ahead.
go ahead, say.
For the March meeting, will y'all be here in person or will it be virtual?
It will be virtual.
That was actually what, I was just gonna say, yeah, are we gonna just have the product, or y'all gonna be able to meet with us virtually, so, okay.
Are we having a February meeting?
So we would not.
No.
I think I probably initially planned it for March 5th, which would have been the usual advisory committee meeting schedule, but I can work with the library to move that to a later date in March if that allows Barry Dunn more time to be ready for a March meeting.
Okay. So, Gary, defer to you as far as March. It's got to be on a Thursday, so, you know, we've got March 12th, March 19th, March 26th. Right now, we have a 5th.
The 5th.
Yeah. What would be attainable by y'all?
We're planning to have diagrams by March. It looks like, actually looks like I am not available on March 5th. We can have someone be available, but if I wanted to do March 12th, that would work.
Julia, you think March 12th would be available?
I'll immediately reserve a room.
You know which library, or we don't?
Whichever one's going to be
Whichever one's
available.
available. Okay, we'll send that out. So that's, I guess that's the question. Is that what we want to do as a group?
I'm fine with that.
Yeah. All right. So seeing that we want to have a March meeting, we'll put together an agenda and reserve a room, and we'll give you fair warning for that. So that motion, I guess, is made for that. Second by Ms. Ruth. And no objections.
And if there's no further discussion, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you.